everyone, it's Stephen Houston here from Lucid Coffee Roasters based in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and it's super exciting to be part of season 7 of Leaderboard Coffee. It's a real honour because I've followed the seasons for quite a while, and it's always great to see kind of how many amazing roasters are involved, so it's really nice to finally be a part of that. So I hope everyone really enjoyed the coffee. I'm a fairly new roastery. I mean, I've been in the industry a while, but I've only really been open now a couple of months, so it's been a pretty wild ride this year trying to start a business, but it was really exciting to be asked to do something like this and be able to showcase coffees that I love into the world. So I don't know how many people gave it a good guess, but the coffee that I roasted for this season was a natural processed red Bourbon from Burundi, from the Kayanza region of Burundi. I got it in from raw material and I roasted here in Belfast. This coffee was really exciting for me because it was one of my first releases as Lucid. It was one of the first coffees I had on my offer list. It was one of those ones during the picking stage, trying to figure out what I was going to release. This was one of those coffees that just stood out. I'm more a fan, like probably a lot of people, I'm more a fan of like washed coffees at the moment. But I still do enjoy a really well processed or not super funky, not super intense natural coffee. And for me, this Burundi was just that prime example of how well you can process things naturally. It had great sweetness, had great fruity flavors, a little bit of tropical hint, very balanced, and again, very, very sweet was kind of the thing that I kept coming back to. So it was quite unusual for me because I was, again, trying to pick a lot more washed coffees because I think there's a lot of greatness in there. And I also didn't want to go too far into like the world of fermented and kind of wild, because they're a bit they can be chalk and cheese. So some people love them, some people absolutely hate them. So I thought this was a safe option for the people of Leaderboard. But yeah, so it's a really interesting coffee. I was super happy to be able to get it. In fact, it was probably my best seller. I think originally I bought 2 bags, I ended up having to buy another 3 just because of its popularity. People really enjoyed it. In fact, Leaderboard got, the last gram of the green coffee that I had left. So so it's almost like it was the last release of that coffee from Lucid. So I was lucky because I just about had enough to send to everyone, which was a bit of a worrying moment at the start, but we got there in the end, and I think everyone got their coffee. But yeah, so for me it was kind of like, I have, in my previous role, I had never really had many coffees from Burundi, and it was a country I've always been very interested in. I enjoyed, kind of discovering it again and tasting those different coffees from Burundi from partners like Raw Material, who've been super helpful getting started. And as I said, like it was the Businde. The Businde was just that one that I kept coming back to and being like, this is so good. Like it's good price, and I was just like super excited about it. And it's again what I try to do with the whole point of Lucid, or what Lucid means, is to be expressed clearly or easy to understand. And that's the kind of coffees I want. It's quite easy to understand that it's a natural coffee, and starting to taste more red Bourbons, you start to kind of develop a little bit of like a familiarity to that varietal. So I thought it was a very good representation of that region, that varietal, and how well coffee can be processed naturally. So yeah, for me it's been a really enjoyable coffee, and I hope everyone did actually like it. But yeah, I think we're gonna brew it up today with my kind of like, I suppose, my sort of go-to sort of QC recipe. Like a lot of people, obviously I cup a lot of my coffees after roasting, but as they develop over time, it's always really good to have kind of like a brew that just kind of like, I know it'll work and I know what it'll give me in terms of what acidity it's got, what brightness, where I can go with it in terms of roasting. Because cupping, it's just, you need to test it on every kind of scale. So this recipe is just using the version 3 of the Oreo, which has become very quickly my favorite brewer. I just love I've always been a flat bottom brewer kind of person with Calitas and things like that. So this was kind of like an easy fit for what kind of coffees I like to produce. So yeah, I got pre-wet filters. I've got 18 grams of the Burundi here. Yeah, thankfully enough, I've managed to freeze pretty much my last bag of this coffee. So I was able to take it out of the freezer, so at least I can get the same experience as everyone else, at least for a little bit longer. So yeah, I've got 18 grams of coffee. It's pretty, I say medium fine. I think it's like 20, 22, 24 clicks on a comandante. And yeah, I keep it. It's actually, I can't take any credit for it. It's Oria's recipe that they sent with the brewer, but it works, so why not? So yeah, the first pour is a circular pour of 75 grams, just into the middle. I'm gonna leave that for 30 seconds. Give that a little swirl. What was I gonna say? I had a point there before I started that. It'll come back to me, it's okay. Yeah, it's been a while since I've had to talk and pour at the same time. So yeah, after 30 seconds, the next pour is again another 75 grams, circular pour. And we're gonna let that drain through. So it's pouring right up to 150. Oh, I just haven't got a cup. Hold on. Super professional as always. Didn't even bring a cup. Yeah, so we're letting that drain down to about, I'd say about 1 minute 25, 1 minute 30 usually before it gets all the way down. I like this recipe because it's just fairly straightforward, it's fairly simple, and you know, with a small adjustment to the grind, it usually just gives you a really, really easy cup of coffee. So yeah, 1 minute 30, I'm gonna do another circular pour of 50 grams to bring it up to 200. And then at 200, I'm just going to pour directly into the center, up to the total of 300 grams. Pretty controlled pour, just straight into the center. And there we go. And just a little swirl. But yeah, I just find again, with these kind of, especially the kind of heavier sweetness, like especially naturals and a couple of washed coffees that I've had, I just find this brew ratio, the brewer, kind of everything just gives you that kind of brew it's balanced, it highlights the sweetness, it brings out the acidity, it just kind of makes a really great cup of coffee, and it's something I've been really enjoying. And as I say, I kind of use this as my like QC recipe, my QC kind of go-to, where I'm like, oh, let's see how this is performing, you know, a week after roast, 2 weeks after roast. And use the kind of same recipe, just so it's also kind of calibrating me, I suppose, to how my coffee's performing and how it performs in a scenario, you know, in a home setting or in a cafe setting. So yeah, it's pretty good. And again, the Oreo is just such a great tool for that. I'm just gonna grab I'm glad I'm showing off how prepared I am for everything at the moment. So yeah, we're coming up just around, that's just over 3 minutes. So the brew, I think the brew ratio, the brew time we usually aim for is about 3:15 to 3:30. So I think this will probably come in and around, yeah, around 3:30. Which again, I think is perfect for this kind of brew. I mean, I'm usually a fan of a lot faster brews, but for this I just find it actually does work quite well. Yeah, that's pretty much 3:30. Okay, I'll just set that. Yeah. Again, with even like this has been frozen. I can't even remember what roast date it's. You know, I think this was the roast beef even before that I sent you guys. But you know, it's one of those coffees. It's just that really rich, fruity aroma that just gives you so much, like there's a warmth to it or something like that. I just find it a very like pleasant. It's not super pungent. It's not super fermented. It's just got that kind of like fruit caramel, really lovely sweetness. something I just really, really enjoyed about the coffee. But yeah, and it's one of, again, like what I try to aim with my coffees is trying to get that really great balance of like, it's got great aromas and great flavors, great acidity when it's, you know, when it's bright and when it's hot. But a big thing for me is always like, as that coffee cools down, I'm the worst for making the coffee and like starting getting busy and forgetting about it. And then I'm like, oh, and then I drink it and it's still tasting really good. So it's like, you know, it's a tribute to like how well it's been processed, how well it's been cared for, and then roasting it and just making sure it's brewed right. Even when it's cooled down completely, it still has loads of great flavors and loads of really interesting parts to it. Again, complexity is something I love aiming for as well. Just those coffees that change dramatically as they cool down are super exciting. But yeah, like, I mean, I got tons of like that kind of, you know, medium high sweetness. It's like medium high acidity, really great sweetness, really good body. It's kind of like, when I first tasted it, it was kind of like more towards like, is this raisins? Is it kind of like, you know, what kind of flavors did we really get from it? I'm trying to remember even off the top of my head. Like more like raisins, blueberries. I get a little bit of like, not brown sugar, but kind of sugar syrupy kind of vibes to it. But yeah, and then I think with just the aftertaste and a little bit in the background, there's like a little hint of that booziness that's really interesting. So again, overall, I believe like I've hoped I've got this kind of like right in terms of that balance between a little bit of acidity, really great sweetness, nice body, and just kind of keeping it all very much a pleasant experience. Coffees like this as well, I like being able to make on, you know, a small brewer. I love being able to batch brew them. I even like throwing them through espresso, so it's always like interesting to see how they change their flavor profile. But again, from a roaster's perspective, making sure they're soluble to do so. So yeah, well, you can let me know. You can let me know if I've done a good job. But yeah, thanks very much for having me part of Leaderboard. It's been really cool to be part of it, and amazing to see the community around it. That's a big thing I love about this coffee industry, that there's a really great community around it, and especially things like this where people are really into it and get quite competitive, but it's all in the you know, it's all in good fun and great coffee. I think that's what's really important about it. So yeah, like if anyone's ever in Belfast, Northern Ireland, feel free to hit up Lucid and give me a shout and come up see the roastery, come and hang out, we'll have a coffee. And if not, hopefully I'll see everyone over the next couple of years at trade shows and events, because we can do that again. So cheers.